There's my hoe and there's my straw. Hey guys, it's Phil from smilinggardener.com. It's actually getting pretty warm out here. I think this might be the last video where I'm wearing my faithful green sweater here. If you haven't picked up my free online organic gardening course, you can do that right on the homepage of smilinggardener.com. Today I'm talking about organic weed control. Now for many of us, organic weed control means we're down on our hands and knees for hours at a time pulling weeds. You can't tell right now, but I was down on my hands and knees. And we really start to, after a while, think that weeds are the enemy, especially weeds like bindweed and some of those grassy weeds that just keep putting up shoots all over the place. I am gonna give you some tips on how to kill weeds naturally today. But first I wanna talk about the benefits of weeds. Some of us have realized, it can't be just that simple that weeds are all bad. The truth is weeds are soil healers. A number of weeds are nitrogen fixers. Like this is vetch. Now this is something I actually planted as a cover crop, but it is helping to get more nitrogen into the soil. Same with clover is a common weed. People would call it a weed in the lawn, even though it wasn't that long ago that it used to be included in lawn seed, and it's coming back a little bit today that people are starting to do a little bit of that. But that is a nitrogen fixing plant. It's working with bacteria to help improve the nitrogen in the soil. Other than pulling weeds by hand, there are a number of things you can do. I'm going to give you 6 of them today. If you get cheap seed, it's going to have a lot of weed seeds in it, and you don't want to do that. Likewise, when you're bringing in compost or when you're composting, you want to make sure you're creating a hot compost pile or buying really good compost where most of those weed seeds will have been killed. Because if you spread compost that has, or topsoil that has horsetail in it or something like that, you're bringing that into your garden. It's not a great thing. So that's number 1, is try to be clean. The second step is balancing your soil fertility. And actually that's what I was going to bring out my soil test for, I remember now. So I'm not going to get into much detail here, but when I look at this organic soil test results, I can look especially at my main macronutrients here. I can see my calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium. Those are all a little out of whack, which is certainly common. But if we can balance those out based on the recommendations from a good organic soil lab, we'll start to see our weed pressure go down. Trusty hoe. Now, it's not always going to kill the weeds, but if you just keep doing it a few times, it's going to weaken them and eventually they won't cause that much problem. With a dandelion, it's nice if you can pull it up by the taproot, but it takes so long. Now, for me personally, I leave most of the dandelions in my soil because I know they're doing a lot of good work there. But if I did want to get rid of them, and this is one-handed, I would just take a hoe and boom, I didn't get rid of everything, but I got rid of a lot. The worms like to hang out right in that root zone of a weed. So that's another reason weeds are good. Next, how am I going to stop that dandelion from coming up again? Well, dandelions happen to be pretty strong. They'll just keep coming back, although you can weaken them over time. But the next step to controlling weeds is, boom, throw a nice thick mulch on there, leaves or straw or whatever you like to use for mulch. I've talked about that before, but that is going to stop most weeds from coming up. Let's go have a look at, okay, let's check out this new garden that I put in last fall. Not a whole lot of weeds going on in here, are there? And that's because a mulch does so much to stop weeds. I had a leaf mulch in here over the fall, and just actually in the last couple of days I've been laying down a little straw because some of the leaves blew over to that side of the garden. So now I'm laying down straw. Those are my 2 favorite kinds of mulch, and I do not have any weed problems in this garden. The next step is to plant very densely. Plant polycultures, which are groups of different kinds of plants that all work together to help each other out and to shade out the soil. Now, I don't have much going on yet this year. Here's my little strawberry patch. It doesn't have much weed problems because it's pretty dense on its own when it gets going, and I plant other things in there and I smother it with leaves. So that's not a great example this time of year. And there's the last step right there if you're in a pinch, and that's vinegar. Just regular household vinegar. It's 5% acetic acid by volume. It's not going to get rid of some of those, dandelions and those really strong perennials, but it'll do a really good job on annuals, and it will weaken perennials too, just like a hoe does over time. So what you do here is you put this in a spray bottle and just spray. It's especially nice for sidewalks and patios, but even a little bit in the garden is not too big of a deal. Now, if you want something a little stronger, you can buy horticultural vinegar. It's 10 to 30% acetic acid. Now, it's pretty caustic stuff, very acidic. It can burn you. You got to be careful with it, but it can be used with, to kill more perennial weeds. So those are your 6 steps. So how to kill weeds naturally. The big thing here is to take a longer view. So all of these other lessons I'm teaching you how to balance out your soil and get organic matter in there all of that stuff is going to create a soil that doesn't support weeds very well. They just won't be able to thrive there. So that's the main one, along with smothering them out with a nice thick organic mulch, with very dense plantings of plants, with a very dense healthy lawn. It's especially important to balance your soil and have a good healthy lawn to outcompete weeds there, because in the garden we can put a thick mulch on and that can cover a lot. So the lawn we really need to make healthy, and that's what we got to do there. So the question today is, what are your main problem weeds? If you can post that down below, I will try to give you some tips specifically on how to deal with those weeds, or I'll try to tell you if there are any fertility issues that those weeds point to. Other than that, you can read more detail in this article down below. You can subscribe to my free online course down below that. You can join me on facebook.com/smilinggardener, and I'll see you next week.